and welcome to the show. Last month, I had the privilege to interview Paul Carey and Emma Kosher, who are campaigning fiercely for Owen's Law to be introduced in the UK. Paul is the father of Owen and Emma his sister. Tragically, 18-year-old Owen died whilst eating out at a restaurant in London. He was severely allergic to buttermilk, and the chicken burger he had eaten had been marinated with it, causing him to die from an anaphylactic reaction. This story really touched me, and I wanted to do anything I could to support their cause. On Monday the 15th of May, Owen's Law was debated in Parliament, in the House of Commons, and I went along to support the family. The family are calling for allergens to be displayed on menus against every dish, where the aim would be to not only to reduce the risk, but to make it safer for people to eat. I'm now joined by Mark White and Hanna Ogburn, who also support Owen's family and understands only too well the importance of knowing the allergens in dishes whilst eating out. Mark is the CEO and co-founder, along with Hanna, of a new app called Ingredifind. Their aim is to make eating out easier and safer for anyone with food allergies and those who prefer a specific diet. We're now going to take a look at a quick reaction interview that I did with Paul and Emma just after we came out of the House and Commons to see how they felt after this debate.
I thought it was really positive. There were 16 MPs there, and every single one of them was very positive about the potential changes that we'd like to place to put the allergies on the face of the menu in all restaurants. The Minister for Health has also said that he'd have a meeting with us, which is really positive. We just hope that the FSA takes stock now and start moving things along a little bit faster than they have been.
How about for you, Paul? I mean, you came on my show and you were interviewed and we were talking about this very day. So this must be, very collaborative to learn.
Yes, it was a very interesting process, very well structured and chaired by Sir Graham Brewery, who we all know in other activities. And it was very interesting that everyone had to take their turns to speak, and there were a couple of interventions, but everyone was in support of what we're asking for.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me both. Thank you. So let's start actually with the debate. I mean, we've just seen the clip there. I mean, what was your reaction, Hanna, to the debate after the House of Commons we went to?
It was definitely a roller coaster of emotions. I am really excited about the progress that they've made. It was definitely overall a successful day. There was definitely a range of emotions because there is so much more to be done, and this is a good progress.
Yes, I think what I took from it was that everyone was really positive. Did you feel the same, Mark? It was a very there was MPs debating and really seeming genuinely interested in this and wanting to do something about it to change the law.
I think that overall, both MPs and guests there were overjoyed with the fact that it's gone to Parliament already. And from what we listened to in the debates, no one was arguing against the idea of Owen's Law or having a allergy SAR.
It was good to see that the MPs were really compassionate to the family, because not only we were there, but Owen's family were there, and it was very moving, wasn't it? There were tears. I mean, I was certainly very upset at one point because over and over again they had to listen to the story of how Owen, their 18-year-old son, had died from food allergies. Now, Mark, you're the CEO, co-founder, along with Hanna. But Hanna, you yourself, in fact, you're the reason, really, that Ingredifind, this new app, came about, because you suffer from many allergies yourself, Hanna, don't you?
I do, yeah.
So you know firsthand how difficult it can be. How many allergies do you have?
I would say about 50 different food allergies and environmental allergies.
That's a lot. So does that affect your day-to-day life?
It has a huge impact on my everyday life, whether I'm going out to eat, whatever products I use. It really affects how I feel day to day, both emotionally and physically.
Yeah, I don't think people understand, do they, Mark, just how, difficult it can be with somebody with allergies, not just for eating out, but just as a lifestyle. It can be, it was like Owen, it really... with Owen's life, he had so many allergies himself that it was a constant pressure for him and his family.
I think there's a big difference with seeing someone or hearing about someone with food allergies versus dining with someone with food allergies, was living with someone with food allergies. I had friends who had food allergies, but the concept really, I didn't understand it really until I met Hanna. And we went out to dinner and we'd go out to have lunch and so on. And then that's when
you kind of realised how
Yes.
difficult it can be.
it can be, yes.
Yeah. And for you, Hanna, what's your experience been? I mean, how do, waiters and waitresses, when they come to you, do they display, when we know that it's not law, which is part of Owen's law, is actually to have the allergens displayed on the menus themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts and feelings about that?
It definitely varies restaurant to restaurant, server to server, but just a couple of weeks ago, I was dining out and I asked the waiter if there were any nuts in the dish that I had ordered. And he was very flippant. He made a joke about how there's a hospital down the road, and so he'll make sure to include lots of nuts because I'll be just fine. And unfortunately, that's not too uncommon of a reaction.
Really? What do you think we could do to change that, somebody's that flippant attitude to somebody?
I think we just need better education, better training for waiters, more collective understanding of what it means to have an allergy and how serious the effects can be.
And for you, Mark, I mean, we'll talk about the app, but for you, it obviously with Hanna, you now, when you dine out and it's presumably become a priority for you.
Oh, 100%. For me, I have no qualms speaking with the waiter, ensuring that, both Hanna and I can eat dishes. Even though I don't have an allergy, I still choose to eat things that Hanna is not allergic to and avoid things she is allergic to.
So is it sort of different here in the UK than, say, France or America, where you're from, Hanna? How do they treat allergens, for instance, in America? How do they sort of view allergens when you go out to restaurants over there?
I can't speak for all of the US, but in California, there's a much better understanding of allergies and better procedures in place. I would say also London does really well. I mean, in Ireland, anywhere you go, there's an allergy menu because of legislation that was passed.
Yes.
Same in Australia. It really depends on where you are and the restaurant.
So it must be,
server.
not only the servers or waiters, whatever you want to call them, they play a really important role, don't they, really, in this? And also the chefs as well. What could we do? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's 3 points of communication what goes to the chef. And first is, you have a customer come in, right, and he notifies them of the allergies. And then it's the job of the server to make sure that he states it clearly on the ticket sheet, the allergies. Sometimes some servers will just do it verbally to a chef, which isn't good enough. Also, the same thing where on a very busy night, the chef is working hard.
Yes, that's
on a full night.
Restaurant, particularly in London or any city.
Going in and asking the chef, if you have especially multiple tables with food allergy, asking, can they have this, this, and this? It can be quite stressful for chefs. Part of what we aim to do with Ingredifind is to help that and make it really clear for our customers so they know exactly what's in each dish, the ingredients in the dish, and the allergens associated. So it becomes less of a strain on the server to chef communication and then back to the customer. It's more a customer to chef communication.
Yes. It makes sense, doesn't it, talking about it here? And you say, verbal is very dangerous, isn't it? Because you could say to the waiter, I have an allergen to peanuts, for example, but that may get lost, mightn't it? By the time, if it's busy, they may have not written it down. And
Hanna and I are very fortunate that Hanna speaks French and I can speak Spanish and Italian. So when we go to different places, we're able to communicate it in different languages, but it can be quite difficult. And you always want to make sure you restate it constantly.
yes,
To ensure that even if they didn't write it down, that they still are this constant reminder that there's an allergy involved.
but that must be so frustrating. You're going for a nice dinner, just a nice night out. How do you feel about that, Hanna?
It can be really stressful. For everyone involved, it's stressful for the customer, it's stressful for the waiter, it's stressful for the chef. And part about what's so great about what we've created is it streamlines that information. Because when I was little, I hated to have to tell anyone my allergies. I was really embarrassed about it. And it really put a damper on the evening.
So did you try and hide it almost? But I suppose that's difficult when you've got such, an allergic reaction to so many ingredients. But
I would say that if it wasn't for my mom advocating on my behalf, that it would have gone really differently growing up, because, she's an adult and I'm her daughter, and obviously she's going to be protective and be an advocate for me. But had I been going out by myself, I don't think that I would have felt comfortable talking to a waiter.
yes,
Yeah.
it's thing. Well, we've got to take a break, but stay with us. Come back and join us in just a minute. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Hanna Ogburn and, of course, Mark White from Ingredifind. So just before the break, we were talking obviously about the House of Commons and just really how difficult it can be, Hanna, for you to go out eating anywhere, really. But I want to talk about your app. So tell us about Ingredifind. It's a revolutionary new app.
Well, we like to think of it more as the future of dining. And the reason being is what we do is we're a platform that communicates directly with restaurants to provide online filterable menus. So customers can go in with whatever allergies they have, whatever preferences they have, whatever diets they may have, and they can go in and find the dishes that they can eat that are suitable for them based on their preferences or dietary restrictions.
So as a restaurant, I can sign up, and then as a customer, so myself and Hanna or anybody can sign up. And so for me as a customer, how is it going to benefit me?
For customers, all you have to do is you download the app on iOS or Android, and what you have to do is you go create a profile, select your allergies or dietary preferences such as vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, and you can see the full list of restaurants that we have on the app, and you just click on a restaurant. We'll show you the compatibility for each restaurant. So how well does this restaurant go with your profile? How much can you really eat from there? How many dishes really have food allergies? So it can also help you kind of understand maybe if there's more than 50% of dishes that contain some allergen, there's going to be a high level of cross-contamination most likely.
Because, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? So is there anything else like this on the market?
No, and what happens is that what we do is we work directly with restaurants. So we don't take menus from random restaurants and try and deduce the allergens involved. All the information is managed and owned by the restaurants in providing the full ingredient list or providing an allergy menu, so that then people can filter based on allergens or ingredients depending on the restaurant.
So it benefits both somebody who's dining out and also the restaurant, because surely if I had someone with allergies, tell me how you would feel, Hanna. If you know a restaurant's gone to that trouble of displaying their allergens, would you not choose that restaurant? Would that make it a better choice for you?
Most definitely. If any restaurant that I see make these changes to accommodate people with allergies, it makes me feel a lot safer, and I'm very much more likely to go to those restaurants. So any restaurants that do sign up, it will really increase the amount of people that feel comfortable dining there for those with allergies.
It also mitigates, having to go into a restaurant, because we've had it a couple of times, especially with friends of ours, who won't handle any cross-contamination. And we've gone in to go in and book a reservation. We go in, and then, so unfortunately, they can't accommodate us because there's high levels of cross-contamination, in which case, time to find another place to eat afterwards. So part of what we do is we help kind of mitigate that. So you have the full understanding before you go to the restaurant as well, instead of just finding out once you're there.
That's good. And then presumably in the future, you'll do things like people be able to book a table through that restaurant and things like that. Because this is a new venture, isn't it, Mark, for you? Now, I know you've been working on it for how many years, both of you?
4.5.
About 4.5 years. So, congratulations, first of all, because the app is now available. You had a launch, a very successful launch in Monaco. You've got another launch in Berlin coming up on the 14th of June.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Are you going to kind of introduce it to cities? In the UK, obviously, we're coming to the UK as well. But was the idea, was that how you wanted to do it? Did you want to have kind of separate cities doing different launches, so to speak?
I would say that, the biggest thing is growing communities, both for restaurants and for customers. So our launches are based specifically where we see growing restaurants joining Ingredifind. So we kind of help the customers with food allergies in that region kind of realize that, hey, there's something for you, somewhere you can go.
Yes.
So we had one in Monaco, we have one coming up in Berlin, and then we're also planning on doing a week-long event in Birmingham as well.
Yes, that's right. I understand that's in July, 10th to the 14th of July. You must be very excited.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Always a lot of work that goes involved with planning all of this.
Smiling there.
Yes, and we're very excited because it's getting the app out, and we've had wonderful responses.
I was going to say
customers.
feedback. What's the feedback been like, Hannah? Have you had some really good feedback?
It's all incredibly positive. Restaurants want something like this. They want to accommodate people with allergies. It's just really hard to do so. And so we have come up with this solution that really just streamlines everything. And from the part of the customer, it makes people feel more comfortable dining out, more comfortable traveling too, and eating out at restaurants, because you're more likely to eat out when you're traveling than when you're at home.
Yes, that's very true, actually. You are, aren't you? And whenever you go on holiday, you tend to eat out all the time, for example, don't you? So when you're traveling, you actually do. So for you, Mark, is it obviously the feedback, is you're kind of actioning the feedback, you're listening to people's feedback and kind of seeing where you can,
for sure,
do whatever you need to do?
We are always open for feedback, because part of why we built Ingredifind is for customers with food allergies, for people with diets. We built this for restaurants. So their feedback is incredibly important.
And also, you can save a life. I mean, let's not, the seriousness of it is, as you all know, Hannah, you could potentially save somebody's life, couldn't you, by having this? Dietary preferences as well, so it's not just focused on the food allergies. So say if you had a vegetarian or a vegan, or perhaps you were gluten-free, does it cater for those as well?
Yeah, it caters to everyone. And if you also have a combination, so if you're vegetarian, but you also really don't like mushrooms, you can filter through. So it's not just the top 14 allergens. It's all ingredients. So it can be as specific or as wide as you want it to be.
Fantastic. And for you, Mark, is this something, it must be very exciting, because you've been working on it for so many years. Is it all that you thought it would be?
It is what I want it to be. The hope is that, that it expands even further from where we are today. The way we're going to get this to really make a change in the industry and to really change people's lives is by having it in every restaurant in Europe, in the US, in Australia, around the entire world.
That's it. Yeah. But I mean, that's your aim, and that's a wonderful goal, isn't it, for you to have? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think restaurants need to play a part, don't they? They need to look at something like this, and particularly perhaps with Owen's Law. Now that may take, a year, it may take 2 years for anything to come in place, but if something like that comes in place, that's going to be, beneficial for you as well, Mark, to reinforce what you both have been doing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it strengthens the awareness for allergies, instead of it just being an option. And some restaurants do put all their allergens on there, but this law would make it a requirement, so that if it's standard in all restaurants, which is just extremely helpful for people.
Now, let's go back to the big events you've got in Birmingham. So you're going to do a range of events, I understand. Some seminars, some dinners. Is this the aim to kind of launch it in the UK?
So part of what we want to do is, the UK has a very strong awareness of food allergies. And we've thought, why not better than to pick in Birmingham?
Yes.
It has a great food scene over there.
It has. It's got an eclectic mix of restaurants in Birmingham, so it's a good place to start. And is that exciting for you, Hannah, to kind of see it all to come to fruition?
It really is, because for so many years of my life, I was thinking this is always just something I'm going to deal with. Eating out at restaurants is just always going to be difficult. And to see this coming to life I can't say any words to describe the feeling.
How wonderful you met someone like Mark, who could kind of, combine your wonderful talents together, so you can actually make this, it must make you very proud. You must feel very proud of what you've done, and created.
I'm proud of him.
You should be, because, and I think for me, you experience it every day. So it's not something that, you think, I'll deal with that next week. This is a daily thing for you. You have to really be careful about what you eat and what you do. How do you feel for other people, Hannah? Do you feel they're going to feel the same about this app?
I do. Those that have food allergies understand the most how difficult it is. And, it can be really hard to eat out, and having something that just provides an extra layer of security, an extra layer of safety will just really make such a significant difference in so many people's lives.
Because it is very different, as we've said, all over the world, isn't it? So America, for example, what's the situation in America? Do they display their allergens on food, or?
It varies state by state. There is a federal, so
you've got California, which you say is really good, for example, but then you've got other states, presumably, that don't do quite as well.
It's up to the state's legislature to decide. All we can say there is this, so in the UK, there's 14 common allergens. In the US, there's only 9. That's federal, but it's up to the states, each state, so they can add more to it or less.
So it's very difficult, isn't it, in America, because it is such a vast country. So you'll have a job there, I would imagine. So are you going to sort of action that state by state when you sort of do America? How will that work, Mark?
I would say, it would go state by state, almost more like region by region.
Region by region, yes.
California is a very big state, so you can't just go all for it.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I wish you every success. Thank you. Right, we're going to take another break, but after the break, I talked to celebrity chef Luke Cullinane about his life as a chef and how the food industry is changing, and so much more. So come back and join me in just a minute. Welcome back. Joining me now is Luke Cullinane, a chef who cooks for the stars and loves every minute of it. So Luke, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
So lovely to see you. So Luke, you've probably just heard the conversations that we were talking about before the break. But Luke, for you, celebrity chef. Now I have to ask straight away, who's your favourite chef? Who's your favourite celebrity, I should say?
My favourite celebrity? It's a hard one. We have a lot of people coming in to visit us where I work at Ballingdon Hall.
Yes.
I'd probably say our top guests there, Lamar the singer's been really, really great.
Yes.
Stephanie Beecham has been down to see us. Angie Greaves. We've had many people come and visit us.
What's it like? Is there an extra sort of pressure when you're cooking for somebody like that?
At first it was, yes. I did think that. To be honest with you, I've put my head up multiple times in the kitchen at Ballingdon Hall and said, all of a sudden, like, oh God, who's that? Who's this? And whatever. And it was a little bit of a pressure, but at the end of the day, they're just normal people here to come and stay with us. So it's the pressure's off after a while once you've met them.
I should imagine. Yeah. Now, Ballingdon Hall, which is of course where you're chef at, and that's in Suffolk, I believe.
Yes, yep.
And it's a beautiful retreat where people can go for, it just sounds lovely. I was reading about it. It's like a wellness retreat where people can go and relax and rejuvenate.
Exactly that.
And you've got lovely food.
And lovely food as well at the same time, exactly. So I've been working with Ballingdon Hall for like the last 3 years. It's owned by Dr. Khan and Leslie Reynolds, who have a clinic in Harley Street in London. They bought it 3 years ago to essentially set up these wellness and health retreats that we run out from there. So we've had many different celebrity guests come and join us while we've been staying there. They've come to stay at Ballingdon Hall. And it's really just it's the most diverse environment I think I've been in. It's a real showgunner. When I mean it comes down to, we've got a fresh spring that we have there, so we've got a tap in our kitchen that runs straight down through our natural stream.
How wonderful is that?
The estate is on 28 acres, so we have woodlands, we have a duck pond, we have a huge kitchen garden as well, which I'm in a lot of the time.
I was going to say, that would be your domain.
I'm sure we touch on it at some point as well. It's a great place, it really is.
And people are really into wellness now, aren't they? Health and well-being is really good. As a nutritional therapist myself, it's something that obviously I'm very passionate about. And have you found that there's an increase in people just wanting just to get away, have a complete break and just relax?
Well, the world is such a difficult place now anyway, isn't it? I think everyone struggles from time to time, and everyone that does need that release. And coming to a place like Ballingdon Hall is really for someone to come and relax. I've seen multiple people turn up at Ballingdon looking quite glum, a little bit down, have probably got something, a bit of a cloud hanging over their head. And they spend 1, 2, 3 days with us. And by the end of it, you see them leaving, they're full of life, they've had great food, food, and it's just walking around the estate and just enjoying it, speaking to our clinicians, and our therapists.
Yeah.
And they do leave. They leave completely different people, and I think that's one of the things that people do need in today's world.
And obviously you sound very passionate about it, Luke, so something, obviously you're very, very keen to work there and be there. How long have you been a chef in total?
I've been a chef for the last 14 years.
Oh, really?
So Where
did you start?
Yes, so when I fell out of school, I wouldn't say fall out of school, but when I came out of school, I trained at Westminster Kingsway College in London. I was there for 2.5 years. It was hard work. As a 16-year-old going into an environment like that is a real struggle, and I don't think people realise how much of a hard industry is to get into. Yeah. But I love working as a chef. I think in today's world and what we do at Ballingdon Hall with the nutrition and the values around it is really, really great, and we're really trying to push that through in Ballingdon as well.
Do you feel that this is going to be a trend that's not going to go away? These sort of wellness retreats. Do you feel that there's particularly Ballingdon, of course, where you're working?
Definitely.
Is it something that's becoming more and more popular?
Definitely. I think that we know that personally from what we've seen at Ballingdon Hall and how quickly it's grown. Yes. Is that we're struggling to get as many people as we are. We are planning to expand it in the next couple of years and so on, so we can invite more people to Ballingdon as well. Yes. Because we're slightly secluded how many people we can invite at the moment. I think that's what makes them really special at the moment as well.
Yeah, so it's like small groups.
That's it, small groups, really nice environments for people to enjoy. But that doesn't mean though that if we do grow in time, that if we make it bigger, that is going to make the experience any different for anyone that comes.
So do you think, Luke, I mean, you're a chef obviously for many years, do you think, did you sort of, when you first started, did you see yourself going down this pattern? Because I think chefs now have changed, don't you? To how you're kind of menu training, for example.
Definitely.
There is a lot more emphasis now on allergies, for example, which we were speaking about. Allergies, nutrition, health, special diets. Have you seen that yourself?
Absolutely. I think chefs back in the day used to be quite a rock star term in a way, didn't it? You think of someone like Keith Floyd, who was in the industry, who was a real character, and chefs are evolving every year, and I think you see that. We didn't learn a lot about nutrition when we were at college. We were taught how to cook and to learn the skills and the basic traits to go out and be a chef, but we didn't understand about allergies. We wasn't taught about nutrition, and I do think it's pivotal that chefs do learn about that now. Like I said, we're in an ever-changing world, and we're learning about allergies and intolerances all the time.
And it puts a lot of pressure, doesn't it, on you as a chef? Because if somebody comes to you as a waiter and says, table 9's got this and this allergies, that must, how does it make you feel as a chef?
I think at first, when I first started doing it, it was panic more than anything.
And I love your honesty.
Yeah, no, and of course, but like I said, the years that I've been in the industry, it's changed, and we are seeing more and more change, and especially not just in restaurants, we're seeing it in supermarkets and different entities within the country. Is that everyone is starting to see now is that it's changing about what we're putting in our bodies and the effects that it can have on us. So making them little changes here and there really do make the difference as well.
Yes, and I think as well, like you've said, it is that we're an ever-changing and ever-evolving world.
Yeah.
So is that difficult for you as a chef to kind of keep up with? What do you do to keep up with the sort of trends?
It is, and that's what was our biggest struggle. It was at Ballingdon Hall when we first started as well, is that we had a lot of guests coming to stay with us that were part of different food groups.
Right.
And I think sometimes as well is that people can feel, and resonated back what Hannah said earlier, but you can feel a little bit awkward sometimes about saying, I've got this allergy, I've got this intolerance and so on. So what we done at Ballingdon Hall is that we took the top 14 allergies and intolerances, and we've taken them out of our menus at Ballingdon Hall.
Right.
Which really makes everyone feel a lot more inclusive, and it doesn't make you feel as uncomfortable, because they used to come to the kitchen and say, look, I can't eat nuts, I can't eat this and whatever, and they feel a little bit awkward. And at Ballingdon we want to make sure everyone feels at home, and we want to make sure and relax, and they're here to unwind, but we don't want to put any pressure on them when they're sitting around at the dinner table saying, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. So we've taken them 14 allergens out of our menus, and ever since we've done that, I understand that people have got other allergies and intolerances, and we always work around that, but as long as we've taken them 14 main allergens out, it really has a better effect on my life as well, because it's a lot less stressful in the kitchen as well, but it makes our guests feel 10 times more comfortable as well at the same time.
And I understand that you're actually going to introduce Ingredifind into your restaurant. You've taken that on board, haven't you?
Yes, and I've realised so much, and I've got intolerances myself, my friends do, we go out to eat, and it's really really hard sometimes to pick restaurants and different menus
Yes.
that feel comfortable for everyone. So we wanted to introduce it into Ballingdon. Like I said, we've already made some changes for us itself, but an app like that would definitely help us.
I was saying, do you think it would be beneficial for you, for people coming to you?
Absolutely. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't have something like that, an app like that. Is that, like I said, we want to make sure everyone feels comfortable, and if we have an app like that, or we have tools and different parts of the technology that can help people in that way, then why not?
And with the Owen's Law, obviously you've probably heard about
Yes,
Owen's Law, Luke. It's something like that. That must resonate with you again as a chef. You're in that world. You're in a foodie world, aren't you?
Absolutely, and I think sometimes a lot of people can maybe point the finger at chefs maybe and say that this is going to be the problem, but it's a societal problem. I think we can all see that, and I think having a law like that embedded into our industry is going to help a lot of people. Like the guy said beforehand, you have allergens menus in Ireland now. I can't see why we can't have that in England now as well.
It's interesting what you said there, because chefs, the finger will be pointed at you,
Yeah.
isn't it? When something goes wrong in a restaurant,
Yeah.
it's straight down to the chef. Chef's fault, that's it.
Yeah, blame the chef,
That's
you
it,
can't
blame
see the chef.
That's
Yeah,
I can't
that's
see
it.
exactly that. So that must be quite nerving, for you, unnerving for you, I should say.
It is.
When you're in a situation where you are, perhaps you've got some diners that have got multiple allergies or just dietary preferences, one's a gluten-free, one doesn't like this one. That must be, what do you do as a chef? Do you kind of...
Yeah,
Tell us about
it's
what you
all
do.
about planning,
Yes.
and I feel like there's a lot of restaurants out there at the moment that don't do enough planning, or they don't cater for enough guests that have these allergies or intolerances for themselves. So it is a struggle, yes it is, but if you plan and you do like we've done at Ballingdon Hall, where you've taken them allergens out, or you
Yes.
adapt, it is, like I said, that is probably the main way of saying it, is to adapt to today's world, and it's since we've done that, we've realised how much of a massive help it's been for us as well.
And has the feedback been very positive about that?
Absolutely, and I don't see why it wouldn't be either, because like I said, it's making people feel comfortable, and making people feel inclusive as well. I think that is the main thing about it, is that I don't want anyone to sit around a dinner table and have any bad feeling or feel I can't eat that or I can't eat this. Why can't everyone sit down around a dinner table, eat the same meal, eat the same food, and all enjoy it, chat about it, and just relax? That's the main thing about it.
Yeah, it must be a chef's worst nightmare, is it, for someone to be served a dish and then them to just look at it and think,
I can't eat that, and they come back into the kitchen and say, oh, you've got to cook something else, you've got to do this. Like I said, it makes my life easier, but it makes the guest life feel a lot more comfortable as well at the same time.
Oh, well, it's fascinating talking to you. Stay with us. We're just going to take a quick break, but come back and join me in just a minute. Welcome back to the show. I'm still here with Luke. Luke, great chatting with you. All things food, making us feel very hungry.
Thank you.
But Luke, tell me about Free From. Now, you're quite passionate about that, aren't you, where you're working at Ballingdon Hall? So tell us about that.
Certainly. First of all, best thing to do is explain Free
Explain
From
it, exactly,
as
yes.
a category. Is that it's a very, very broad term, Free
It is.
From, and Hannah sitting here earlier is like I said, resonated a really good point of that she's got 50 different allergies. Is that the Food Standards Agency, they list us the 14 most common
That's right.
allergies, but there are so many more. And Free From really does just categorise certain foods that don't contain ingredients that people have allergies and intolerances
Right,
to.
okay.
So it can be anything from gluten, soya, nuts, lupin,
List
sulfur
is
dioxide.
endless.
The list, I could sit here all
Yes.
day and tell you, Monica, about it. But Dr. Khan and Leslie, who own Ballingdon Hall, they have a lot of family members that have a lot of allergies and intolerances. And it's something like I said, we wanted to build some menus. We wanted to make, like I said earlier, make everyone feel very comfortable when they come and stay with us. So we're at the moment creating products at Ballingdon Hall that we're going to be putting out to supermarkets and different restaurants and so on. Wonderful. That basically have taken the Free From the main 14
Yes.
Free From groups and taking them out of them. So like I said, to make people feel a lot bit more comfortable about what they're eating.
Yes.
So if we're working towards that at the moment, but yeah, there's lots more to come.
Lots of things in the pipeline,
Yes,
by the sounds of
certainly
it.
is, certainly
And for
is.
you as a chef, Luke, obviously we spoke and we've been speaking, and it's been great that you're very passionate about your job. You obviously clearly love your role.
Absolutely love it.
What do you like best about it?
Every day's different. I think that's what it is. I've always loved cooking from a very, very young age. I was brought up on food. My mum and nan were great advocates of that, of always been eating home-cooked food. So as a young child, I was always brought into that. Always just sat on TV and watched TV chefs and whatever, and thought, I always want to be like them. Gordon and Jamie, I'd be like, I'd bow down to them.
I was just about to ask you, who is your favourite chef? Have you got a favourite?
I don't know, Monica. That's hard. That is very hard to say. Gordon Ramsay was always, I'd probably say, the one to me. I followed him around when I was younger. I used to go to his shows and talks and bits and pieces. The other one is Rick Stein. I'm a massive fan of Rick Stein. I think he's an absolute
Both
gentleman.
Fantastic,
yeah, he's a real
fantastic
gentleman.
chefs.
Yeah.
Is it changing for you as chefs that are coming? The new chefs that are coming out. Are things changing? Do you think?
Definitely. Like I said earlier, is that. I think chefs back in the day were treated as a little bit like a rock star industry sort of thing, of work hard, play hard sort of environment, and you saw a lot of real characters coming out in the industry. There was a lot of butter and cream used, and that's not something that I'm saying that I don't use now, especially at weekends. But I do think now more than ever that people are a lot more conscious about what they eat. And as we spoke about earlier, more than anything, is that health, nutrition is a huge part of today's world, and especially in my industry. And like we said earlier as well, is that I wasn't really taught much about that when I was at college and so on. It makes it difficult in times, but like I said, as long as you keep your finger on the pulse and you know what you're doing, you've got the right people around you, there's no reason why it's not.
Now, do you think there's a kind of growing surge for home growing, home produced food?
Absolutely.
So, from the garden, they grow it from farm to fork, don't they? So are you seeing a sort of surge in that as well? And do you have your own gardens at Ballingdon?
We certainly do.
We
certainly do, yeah. I think everyone will, a lot of people anyway, I speak for a lot of people throughout the lockdown period that were growing some sort of vegetable in their garden. I know I did. It was something to pass the time a lot when we first started going through that funny period.
That terrible time.
Yeah, that very terrible time, yeah.
And lots of people learned to cook, in fact.
That's it.
In fact,
I think
cooking shows took off.
Yeah, everyone was making banana bread at one point as well. I think what it was. We had a lot of bananas hanging around everywhere as well. But yeah, we've got kitchen garden at Ballingdon Hall. So when Leslie and Dr. Khan bought the place, they also come alongside with the groundskeepers as well, that were the original ones that have been at the property for a number of years. So we've got the most amazing kitchen garden. It is bursting with ingredients.
Do you use them as much as you possibly can?
Pretty much everything that comes from there goes straight into Ballingdon, goes straight to our guests at the dinner table. So at the beginning of every season, I give the groundskeepers a list of ingredients and say, work your magic on it. And then I was in the polytunnels yesterday, actually at Ballingdon Hall, and they are thriving at the moment. They are absolutely thriving.
And I always say that when you teach someone to cook, it's a life skill.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And is it something that you'd like to see more of, say, in schools, for example?
Absolutely. I think there's nothing more important than children to learn about nutrition and food from a very early age. We used to see programmes of about 10 years ago, I'd probably say, with Jamie Oliver trying to teach kids about nutrition and about the chicken nuggets, and when he was doing their bits and pieces as well. And getting it into kids as early as we can, and Jamie was a great person at really pushing that, and I think we need to do more of that. I feel like we've stopped slightly, more than anything, and it's more and more important that we get into these schools and we get into the kids from a very early age at how important their health and nutrition is.
Why do you think that is, Luke? Why have we kind of stopped that kind of... Because it was, as you say, there was a real sort of surge in that direction.
I don't know. I don't know if Jamie's given up maybe slightly on it as well. Yeah.
But also I think, in schools, for example, like you said, computer rooms now were previously kitchens. So where, you've got in schools, used to have huge kitchens.
Yeah.
Certainly I had home economics when I was at school.
Yep.
They've now been converted into computers, computer rooms full of screens. So we've given them one skill, but taken away...
Absolutely.
What I consider to be a life skill.
Yeah, that's where I learnt a lot of my trade, was food in cooking in schools and so on.
What did you cook? What was your first thing you cooked? Can you remember?
I can't remember. It was a long time ago now. I remember making pasta in school. I do remember that. Pastas and breads and different bits and pieces as well. I couldn't remember what the first thing was.
Lemon meringue pie was mine.
Was that yours?
Yes.
I think a queen of puddings as well. I don't know if you remember that as well. It was quite an old school one as well that they pulled out as well at one point.
But you see, I think for me, and you'll probably, I don't know, tell me if you agree or disagree, but it's important that the children learn where the food comes from.
Absolutely.
You can go to children now and have a conversation with them, and they won't know where where celery comes from or where cucumbers come
Absolutely.
from, and they don't know whether it's a plant or a fruit or a vegetable. And again, that's such a shame, isn't it, Luke? Would you say?
It is. We can laugh about this now, but
Yes.
I spoke to a group of children the other day, and they thought carrots grew on trees.
Really?
Yeah.
We laugh, but that's
That's
quite
what I'm saying. We can
scary.
laugh about it, but as well at the same time, it is scary.
Yes.
It's that the children don't know where our food comes from. I think a lot of people think that it just comes straight from the supermarket, but there was a huge process, and I'm a massive advocate for UK farmers over here and what they do for our industry. Children don't know; they don't understand where it comes from, and I think taking them to places like we're trying to do at Ballingdon Hall, where take them to the kitchen garden, show them how tomatoes are grown, show them how this is grown, the sweet corn and so on. It's a massive learning curve for children at such a young age to drum it into them how important it actually is.
Do you think the government can do more about it?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot more they can do about a lot of things, but I think it's within the food industry there is so much more they can do with allergens, with intolerances, within children as well, within them learning about food. There's so much more that can be done, and I feel like we can champion it a lot more.
I think as well it's funding, isn't it? It always comes down to funding,
Always
of
down
course.
to money.
It's always fun. And as you say, great plans for Ballingdon Hall.
Yep.
So possibly some plans in the future to involve children, school children.
Yep.
Working on a nutritional level and to keep that nutritional, by the sounds of it, that kind of nutritional theme, if you like, all the way through.
Yeah. That is certainly a project we're working on at Ballingdon. Is inviting the schools down to Ballingdon, taking them around the gardens, letting them have a look, letting them pick some salad, taking it back to the kitchen. We can teach them about the nutritional benefits about it, but also how tasty it can be as well. Because as long as I think kids now, and I do think that I have nephews myself, and realising the foods that they eat now, I wouldn't have eaten some of them. Avocado and stuff like that is now a lot of children eat, but I don't think I ever knew what an avocado was.
Or an olive. I never ate an olive, I don't think, until I was 18.
Avocado was about the colour of someone's bathroom, I think, as well, of what it was around some point. But
and interesting though, isn't it? Because the food is so different in different countries.
Yes.
If you lived in France, for example, you would be olives and things like that, and olive oil and vinegar would be a stable part of your diet from a very, very young age. Whereas here in the UK, a bit more traditional, aren't we? We are changing, which I think is good.
We're getting there.
Do you think that's good, that we kind of introduce a kind of, if you like, a global view of our food to our children here?
Absolutely. The food is an absolute endless book. It really, really is. And there is so far you can go with it. And there's hundreds and hundreds of different cuisines out there that I feel that we need to experiment more with a lot more. I'm definitely not knocking down our English food scene whatsoever, because we've got some incredible chefs and working within our industry as well. But there is definitely we could definitely hand pluck from different other cuisines as well to help to have a healthier lifestyle as well.
I think we are learning, aren't we?
We're definitely
we're
learning.
Seeing that now. There's more TV shows. Would you like to have your own TV show, Luke?
Maybe one day. I think that's the dream. Like I said to you the other day, I grew up watching many TV chefs on the TV and thinking I'd love to do that one day. So who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Watch this space.
That's the one.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's been a pleasure.
Really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm feeling rather hungry now, but thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my guests, of course. So come back and join me again next week. Bye-bye for now.